Rain softly tapped the hospital window as Major Evelyn Hart adjusted the bandage around her leg. The doctors called it a miracle she survived. After her jet went down during a covert mission in Eastern Europe, she had managed to eject midair, but not without consequences. Her right leg was shattered beyond repair, and so was a piece of her identity. The Air Force was all she had ever known. It had been 5 months since the crash. 5 long months of surgeries, physical therapy, and staring at the sterile white ceiling, wondering who she was now. One morning, her nurse, Louise, entered with an envelope in his hand. "Evelyn, you've got something big," he said, handing her the thick gold-trimmed paper. She opened it slowly. Inside was a formal invitation sealed with a presidential crest. "You are cordially invited to the National Veterans Honor Ceremony in Washington, D.C. Your presence and sacrifice will be recognized personally by President Donald J. Trump." Her fingers froze. A lump formed in her throat. Evelyn wasn't sure what she felt. Honored, anxious, maybe even a little cynical. She'd seen war. She'd seen promises. And she'd seen how easily people forgot. Still, something about the letter tugged at her. Louise looked at her. "Are you going?" "I don't know," she whispered, looking down at her prosthetic. "I don't want applause. I want meaning." Outside, the rain turned into sunlight. The morning Evelyn left the rehab center, staff and patients lined the hallway. Applause echoed, but she didn't smile. She gave nods of gratitude, her crutch tapping against the floor in rhythm. Louise handed her a small pouch. Inside was a silver pendant shaped like wings. "For strength," he said softly. She boarded the train to D.C. alone, her military bag in hand. The rhythmic rocking of the train matched the ache in her soul. She passed farmland, towns, and blurred faces, each a reminder of the life continuing outside war zones. She had been to Washington before. Briefings, brief smiles, and politics wrapped in protocol. But this time felt different. This wasn't about tactics. This was about something deeper, something personal. The image of her co-pilot, Mason, flashed in her mind. He didn't make it. The guilt sat heavy. She clutched the pendant tighter. "I'm not doing this for me," she murmured. "I'm doing this for him." Evelyn stepped onto the platform at Union Station, the breeze brushing her face. She wore her dress blues, sharp, proud, and ironed to perfection. Her hair, once down to her shoulders, had been chopped short since rehab. She looked like a soldier, but she didn't feel like one. A young staffer greeted her with a sign. "Major Hart." She nodded. "Welcome, ma'am. The President's office has arranged accommodations for you at the Capitol Inn. You'll be escorted." "I don't need an escort," she said bluntly. The staffer paused, unsure how to respond. "But thank you," she added, softening. As they drove past monuments and memorials, she couldn't shake the irony. Statues of heroes stood tall, but their real stories often faded behind bronze plaques. At the hotel, Evelyn unpacked slowly. At the bottom of her bag was a folded American flag. Mason's, returned to her after the mission. She placed it on the desk, whispering, "You should be here, not me." The next day was filled with logistics. A military coordinator, Colonel Bygam, walked her through the seating chart and stage setup. "You'll sit in the front row with other wounded veterans," he explained. "At the 10-minute mark, the President will call you up for your recognition. He may offer a medal or token of gratitude." Evelyn nodded. "And then that's it. A moment of honor. Then your part's done." She frowned. "Just a moment." Colonel Bygam raised an eyebrow.
"Ma'am."
Evelyn shook her head. "Nothing. Just seems brief." He gave a tight smile. "That's politics. Recognition isn't always as deep as the sacrifice." His honesty hit harder than expected. While walking near the Lincoln Memorial later that evening, Evelyn noticed a boy in a wheelchair sketching something. Curious, she approached. "What are you drawing?" The boy looked up startled. "You're in uniform?" She smiled. "I used to fly jets. What about you?" "I want to be a pilot one day," he said proudly. His mother came over apologizing, but Evelyn waved it off. She spent an hour with them answering the boy's endless questions. Before leaving, he handed her the sketch, a picture of her in uniform with wings. "You're a hero," he said. Evelyn choked up. "No, kid, you are." The hall was packed. Veterans, politicians, media. Flags waved, music swelled, and Evelyn sat in the front row, hands clenched tight on her lap. Trump walked in, the room rising in applause. He gave his speech, strong, heartfelt, patriotic. Then came the recognitions. "Major Evelyn Hart," the announcer called. She stood slowly, heart pounding. Trump stepped forward, holding a black box. "For your extraordinary courage, sacrifice, and service to this nation, I present this token of gratitude." Inside was a diamond-encrusted medal worth thousands. He smiled, but Evelyn didn't reach for it. Instead, she looked him in the eye and said, "I can't accept this." Gasps filled the hall. The room fell completely silent. Trump, caught off guard, paused. "Major Hart, would you care to explain?" Evelyn took a deep breath. Her voice didn't shake. "Sir, I appreciate this gesture, but my co-pilot, Lieutenant Mason, didn't make it back, and there are thousands more like him who will never sit in this room. I don't need a medal. I need something else." The cameras zoomed in. Murmurs rippled. Trump stepped back. "Then what is it you ask for?" She looked around. "I want a promise. Not for me, but for those still fighting and those forgotten. I want you to visit the rehab centers, the burn units, the silent wings of this country." Evelyn's voice grew stronger as she continued. "I don't want gold, sir. I want presence. I want every soldier lying in silence to know they're not alone, that their pain isn't invisible." Some veterans in the crowd wiped tears. Others stood in support. Trump looked moved, his expression softening. He closed the metal box. "I wasn't expecting that," he admitted. "But you're right." He leaned into the microphone. "Major Hart has asked for something priceless, and I intend to deliver." Thunderous applause broke out. Backstage, Evelyn sat alone, heart racing. A young intern approached. "Ma'am, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen." She smiled weakly. "Bravery isn't refusing medals. It's living without the ones who should have gotten them." Her phone buzzed. A message from Louise. "Saw you on TV. We're all cheering for you. And Mason would be proud." She closed her eyes and whispered, "I hope so." The next morning, headlines exploded. Veteran refuses Trump's gift, asks for veterans instead. Major Hart breaks silence, and America listens. Evelyn received hundreds of messages from families of fallen soldiers, from amputees, from forgotten vets. She didn't want fame, but the attention gave her a platform. She decided to use it. 2 days later, her hotel phone rang. "This is President Trump's office. He'd like to invite you to a private meeting." Evelyn hesitated. "When?" "In an hour." She put on her blues, straightened her tie, and prepared to speak. This time not on stage. The Oval Office was quieter than she expected. Trump welcomed her with a firm handshake. "You shook the room," he said. "I didn't plan to," she replied. "You asked for something rare, truth, and I respect that." He leaned forward. "I want to visit a VA rehab center, and I want you to come with me." Evelyn nodded, stunned. "Yes, sir." A week later, they entered the VA rehab center together. Cameras stayed outside. Burn victims, double amputees, PTSD patients. All looked shocked. But when Evelyn sat beside them, listened and shared her own pain, something changed. Trump listened too. Real tears were shed. Real silence held. This wasn't a PR stunt. It was real. In one room, they met a 19-year-old Marine named Kyle who lost both legs. He wouldn't speak. Evelyn sat beside him quietly. She took off her prosthetic leg and placed it next to him. "I lost one. You lost two. But we're still here. Let's build something from it." Kyle finally looked at her and smiled. Trump called Evelyn days later. "I want to create something lasting, a program, a campaign. Whatever you want, you lead. I'll support." Evelyn thought for a moment. "Then let's build the Heart Project named after every broken heart that still beats. Rehab centers, mental health support, real funding." Trump agreed. As the Heart Project launched, donations flooded in. Celebrities backed it. Veterans volunteered. Hospitals welcomed it. Evelyn traveled to dozens of states, not as a hero, but as a sister in arms. She was no longer lost. She had purpose again. At a small-town school, Evelyn met a little girl who drew her a picture. "You're like Captain America," the girl giggled. Evelyn laughed. "I'm more like Sergeant Sidekick." She hung the drawing in her home office. It reminded her that courage wasn't about perfection, but persistence. Months later, Evelyn received a letter from Mason's mother. "You stood for him when the world couldn't. You gave his sacrifice meaning. Thank you." Evelyn broke down. That was the real medal. On Memorial Day, Evelyn gave a speech. "No medal defines a soldier. Their scars do. Their silence does. Their stories do." She paused. "And sometimes the greatest gift is to ask for none at all except remembrance." Tears flowed across the audience. Years later, Evelyn stood at a new center, the Mason Veterans Healing Center, funded by the Heart Project. As she cut the ribbon, a boy handed her a small box. Inside was a bronze tag that read "Priceless." He smiled. "You gave us more than hope. You gave us a future." And in that moment, Evelyn realized she had received the greatest gift of all, legacy.